Today's video was sponsored by Pop Culture Zone Pressing Services. If you need your comic books pressed, I personally vouch for Pop Culture Zone as being one of the best professional companies in the game, offering hands down the lowest prices out there. Services start at only $9.99, and every order placed will receive free fast track turnaround times. Even though I press comics for my personal collection, whenever I need a professional press for my key comics, I send them off to Pop Culture Zone, and every single book that I've received back, every single one, has had results that have exceeded my expectations, and I am sure that they will exceed your expectations as well. Make sure you go check the link in the description below to head over to their website, popculturezone.com, for complete details on services and how to begin your order.
All right, once again, props or flops. This is strictly for investment speculative purposes. You upload any comic to Instagram, make sure you hashtag props or flops. Make sure you tag Comic Book Canon as well as journos_comics. Tell us why the book interests you. Tell us what you paid for it if you just purchased it, etc., etc. It could be a book that you have not purchased yet. Tell us why you're interested in investing or speculating on this book, and we will break it down live on our show. We do have 2 submissions, 3 books this week. Jeff, like you said, you brought up Darkwing Duck. Should we go right back into it?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's I'm checking out these prices right now on Cover Price, and I'm found these 2 bad boys for $2 a piece at Half Price Books the other day. I'm not a huge fan of Disney stuff, but I knew the Darkwing Duck #1 had some value. The Beavis and Butthead one is #1 is probably staying in the PC because I like the show. A quick eBay search makes me feel pretty good about what I just paid. But my question for you, Chris, if I paid fair market value for these books, would you give that purchase a props or a flops for a long-term investment? Darkwing Duck is about a very fine new mint, and Beavis and Butthead is very fine.
All right. So a couple things to look at. He's specifically asking us if he paid a fair market value. Well, he paid under fair market value right there. So $2 for each of these books is a props all day. But Jeff, we can't put props up on screen yet because he's asking us a specific question, right?
Yeah.
So we should approach it coming from what he's asking. But yeah, these books at $2 a piece, I don't care if their fair market value was $2. I would still buy them all day just because they're nostalgic, they're classic, they're fun. Right? I mean, especially folks that grew up with these characters, watching these cartoons, $2, even in an investment purpose, 20 years down the line, there's going to be some nostalgia value there for these books. But he said, what'd he say about a very fine near mint for Darkwing Duck?
Yeah.
And then he said, what about a very fine for Beavis and Butthead?
Yes.
Okay, so very fine for Beavis and Butthead. You're probably looking at about a $15, $16 book. You're looking at about a $50 book for that Darkwing Duck. Whew, man. All right. So let's actually take a step back. Beavis and Butthead at about a $15 fair market value right now. I definitely still think that is a props. It's a decently high grade and a very fine. And again, just the nostalgia alone. This is going to have nostalgia where collectibles are collectibles because of nostalgia, not just because it's a comic book. You might have Beavis and Butthead fans wanting to collect this 20 years from now that don't even collect comic books just because it's Beavis and Butthead. So I do see it's a low risk because it's only about $15. It's not a lot of money. I mean, if you could sell this book for $30 10 years from now, I will give that a props. Darkwing Duck now, roughly about a $50 book in that high grade. The thing you want to look at for that I'm going to look at here real quick while I'm here is we're going to look at what it's been doing on the market. And if we go back to even during the COVID boom, this book was more around a $30 to $40 book. Actually, there was an outlier that sold for $90 later on in October of 2021, but that is an outlier because you go back in the last couple of months of 2021, you have a $31 book and then a $54 book. So I do think that you're taking a bit of a risk in terms of the market right now if you were to pay around $50 for this book. And that's simply because we don't know what the market's going to do over the next year or so. It is kind of scary, with the way the world is right now. But putting these two together, even at those prices, I probably still would give it a props, because I think even if this book dips for the short term, I think long term, the book's going to continue to have that value, that nostalgic value. So I think either way you look at this 360, it's a props all day for these books, but especially you coming out of these books for $2 each. I mean, that's just, that's one of those moments where you seize the day and you look back and you're like, wow, that was awesome, because you could flip this and, have probably $50+ in your pocket today. So all around, I think this was a props for me.
Brendan, your thoughts?
Darkwing, 100%. I give that one props for simple fact that, I mean, if you pay $2 for this thing, then you pay a little bit more to get that thing pressed and slabbed, and you've totaled like $30-$40, but just looking, at the sales of this in a 9.8, which, maybe that's a little bit high, but he said it's VF to near mint if he gets it pressed and he hits that, but this book hasn't sold for less than like $160 since like 2019. So in a 9.8, but if you go, if you're going to go a little bit less than that, and instead, maybe you're looking at like a 9.6 or a 9.4, you're still, especially for a $2 entry, you're absolutely going to make your money back and then some. So to me, I'd say an absolute prop. That's especially with the fact that Marvel is actually launching a new Darkwing Duck comic right now, and it's most likely going to be getting revived as a show on Disney Plus. There's going to be some more kind of fervor around that. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely one that I think it has short-term and long-term potential. Short-term right now with the buzz around those, but long-term, it's a Disney character that is going to be that kind of legacy character, especially for people grew up in the 80s and 90s and remember that original cartoon. The nostalgia factor is there. So I'd say it's a prop all day. Beavis and Butthead is like, it's thrown in there with it. For $2, there are very few things that I think you would call a flop in that case. And who knows, maybe someday there'll be another big, Beavis and Butthead craze, and and you make your money back and then some.
For sure, like absolutely. I think it's props all day on both of them. Darkwing Duck has, there's more potential with that. Chris, look at Chris, got his computer working. Good job.
Hey, there he is.
No doubt it's props. I know Beavis and Butthead is not as hefty as Darkwing Duck is, but again, that's fantastic. Oh, I guess the question was though, if you bought it at fair market value. Shit. That changes things for me.
Well, I'll say to Brendan's point too, because even fair market value of a 9.6 right now is around 140, 150. Even if you paid $50 for that Darkwing Duck book, and you paid $30 to send it to CGC and get it back, and it doesn't, maybe you pay $10, $15 to get it pressed and clean, and it comes back even a 9.6, and you could sell it at fair market value, you're still going to have extra money in your pocket.
Yeah, not to mention, those are the kind of books too that you have to be willing to play the long game in some of them too, and realize that, look, short term you may be able to get a little back, or it may not do that much, but there are certain kind of it's almost like fashion where things go around in cycles, and then kids today are wearing stuff from like the 80s and 90s and think they invented it. Right. Sure, it's the same thing. They think they just discovered the most, the best thing since sliced bread. And it's the same thing with certain characters like that, with Darkwing, with Beavis and Butthead, that, that nostalgia cycle will swing. And so long term, I think those characters, as ridiculous as like Beavis and Butthead are, I think do have potential down the road for
Yes.
those random spikes in pop culture. And so if you
Sure.
got it at fair market value today and you're willing to play the long game and you wait for one of those big spikes, you could flip that and make a good amount of money.
Yeah, $15, totally, absolutely. I mean, you got it for $2, which is like just incredible. So kudos to that. So I think we all agree here on props. Chris, we're gonna move on to the next submission, which was also a fresh from the comic shop submission, I do believe. So let's bring it up, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, we got Josh's Comics, Josh Comics 01
from Delaware.
Yeah, this beautiful Batman. What is it? Batman 144. Oh shoot, I got it right here. He didn't state the number. Batman 155.
155.
That's
Yeah.
Right. Let's read what he wrote though. First Silver Age appearance of the Penguin. Another huge grail acquired for my Rogue Gallery first appearances. That's awesome. Definitely on the low grade side, but it's extremely happy. But he's extremely happy to have it. Let's just say that. It's in the 2.0 to 3.0 range and looking forward to getting it graded. Hashtag. All right. So Josh, next time, great submission. I'm going to love talking about this book in a minute. If you don't mind sharing what you paid for this book, that would help us out because
right here, Chris.
Oh, he's here. Yes. All right.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Josh paid $224 for this awesome Batman book. Look, I've been saying this ever since I've been making video content on YouTube. DC is especially Silver Age, Bronze Age, of course. DC is overlooked. DC Comics are overlooked. They have been for the past 11 plus years. Ever since we knew Thanos was coming, ever since we had Avengers assemble on the big screen, that's when we really started seeing the speculative hype from movies. And who did it? Well, it was Marvel. You know, we really didn't have it too much, you know, outside of the Batman 89 hype. You know, we really didn't see the market do what it does until the MCU. So unfortunately, we know what the DCEU has done for 10 years. Nothing. Some people might argue with me, but when it comes to comic book sales, it's been rough. There isn't that correlation yet. So DC Comics, I'm telling you guys, there is so much potential in DC Comics. The thing that a lot of people forget these days is this. Comics have intrinsic value that is inherent to the books themselves. There's people that think that comic books only get valuable because the character shows up in a movie. It's not how it works, and it hasn't worked that way for, 80 years. That's one factor now, yes, and it matters. You take that into consideration and you look at Silver Age books and how they have gained value over the years. Then you look at the intrinsic reasons to why, that intrinsic value. What does it mean? Silver Age first appearances of Golden Age characters in the Silver Age. Batman, one of the most popular superheroes and iconic superheroes of all time. Batman's Rogue Gallery, some of the most iconic villains of all time. All of those things right there tell me that this is an amazing book to have in your collection if you care about value and future investment value. Now, he said he paid what? $224 for this book?
Yep.
Okay. 224?
Yeah, 224. Yep.
All right. He's estimating it between a 2 and a 3.0. Now, we know that when you look at raw books and fair market value of raw books, it's subjective. Because when you go on eBay and somebody has a book for sale that's raw and they say, this is a very good. Well, I've seen people put like books that have, a quarter of the cover and they call it a very good. Then they say, oh, this is a very fine, and it has like half of the back cover ripped off. So it's subjective. Taking into consideration that subjectivity. Right now, in the very good range, which is 3.0 to 4.5, okay? The last 3 sales over the last 6 months have all been over the price that Josh paid for this book. I'm going to tell you what those prices are. In July of 2022, it was $360. Now, remember, guys, that could be a 4.5, 4.0, something like that. The next sale was for $248 in October. And the next sale was just yesterday for $312. But what does that mean? That means that this book right here that could be in that range is he bought it for under that. Now let's look at the 1.5 and 2.5. Okay. 180 was the last sale in November. 389 was the last sale in May, and then 275 in April. Now remember that those could be books that are below what Josh paid. So we got to find some type of middle ground right there. And I'm going to estimate, if you look at all the prices and the grades, I'm going to say that Josh probably paid a decent fair market value currently for this book. I can't sit and say he overpaid or he underpaid. I think he paid a decent price for this book right now. Props or flops? I got to give it props. Because of 2 reasons. One, when you look at the market and what it's doing right now, it's Silver Age books like this that are having, for those books that are dropping with the state of the market, these books are holding more than a lot of your other books that are simply speculatory or obviously books that aren't Silver Age. This is a book that is going to continue to gain value over time no matter what. It doesn't need movie hype. The Penguin doesn't need to show up in a movie. Although, you know, we had a great Penguin and Matt Reeves, the Batman. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the market continues to ebb and flow. Because for me, this isn't a short-term flip. This is something that Josh can hold on to. And in 5 years from now, I can guarantee, if we're still doing the show, Jeff, I will end my channel. I will end. If I'm still doing this show, I'll quit. If I'm still doing Journos Comics, I'll quit my channel. If this book in 5 years, if he cannot sell it for more than he paid right now, I don't care what the economy does. I will quit Journos Comics. I give this book a props.
All right. Brandon, your take on this.
100%.
I'm sorry.
I give Brandon. That's all right. My in-laws have been doing that for 20 years now. 100% give that a props. It's there, like Chris mentioned, there are books and characters and keys that don't need hype around a movie or a TV show. Now, that being said, I think right now is a if you're looking for short term or in the next like 5 years, yes, investments and money makers, DC is the place to look because people are talking about the James Gunn effect, right? Yep. And every time there's a casting announcement or a trailer drop or a director announcement in Marvel, you see those books spike. They almost all of them crater immediately after the release of something, right? Not because even if the movie was really good or there's, just because it's like, okay, now everybody's moving on to the next thing. So short term, as DC starts to unveil that plan, you're going to see that a lot. And Matt Reeves's Batman movie was very well received. Colin Farrell's performance as Penguin was very well received. And the show on HBO Max is moving forward. So I think you will see a spike in Penguin keys around that show. And if you need money in the short term, that's a good way to do it. Me personally, I'm with Chris. This is a long-term book because, look, the first Silver Age appearance of Penguin, that it's not going down. Like you'll have ebbs and flows, but it's not going to go from $400 to a $20 book. It's not going to do that, right? You're going to have a floor that you're not going to go beneath, and such an iconic character. in and that book, even if it's, a 3, which was like on the low end of what he had estimated, I think, even if it's a 2 or 3, it presents really well. That's a good long-term investment that I think will hold its value. You just have to kind of be willing to play that long game and have the patience, because a lot of people think they will, and then they see a spike and then they want to jump on it because they think, oh, I got to do this. It's, it's like Miles Morales right now. What did that ridiculous $43,000 just happen for, Ultimate Fallout? Even Brian Michael Bendis, who co-created the character, put on his Instagram story a picture of that and then a gif of Tom Holland say, what just happened? Like, he was shocked. Like, are you serious? Because everybody's like, oh, Miles, he's going to be in the MCU or Across the Spider-Verse movie, and it's going to spike and everything like that. And they get the fear of missing out on a sale, on the money that they might be able to make in the short term, when they don't stop to think, man, give it another 10, 20, 30 years, Miles is going to be like Peter. He's going to be that character that is just iconic, and that, he already is to a certain extent. So if you're willing to play that long game and not like get sucked into, oh, I got to flip this now before it goes down, relax, because it's going to go down, then it's going to go back up, but it's going to steadily go up over a long term.
Josh says that this is staying in his PC, so it's, that doesn't matter. But I agree with you guys completely, because Brennan, as you were saying, it's going to be like the stock market. You'll have your dips, but it'll continue to go up. So
you got to not get freaked out by those.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
that's why I haven't looked at my little bit of stocks. I haven't looked at them in 6 months. I'm like, I can't do it, because then you freak out one way or the other.
But at some point down the road, they'll get better, right? So it's again, exactly. I think it's a great pickup. If it was in an investment pickup, for sure, absolutely. Because again, these DC keys, and Mark Lineker brought up a really good point. You can find DC Silver Age that are better, I believe, priced than a lot of the Bronze Age Batman books. So keep an eye out there, guys, because now is the time to buy them, but we're nearing the end of the time to kind of jump on and get some deals, because Jam's going to start announcing what, and Peter Safran are going to start announcing what their plans are in the next 10 years, starting this month. So we're looking at the next couple weeks. So things are going to start getting tighter in terms of the speculative market. So
enjoy those books in your PC for the next 30 years, and then have one hell of a retirement.
There you go. When
you're ready.
Good way to put it too. 100%. So another great props or flops, Christopher. We'll have some more entries next week. I was teasing Raising Elms entry for next week. I think that looks absolutely fantastic. I'm psyched to show that one off. But once again, everybody, just upload any comic to Instagram and use the hashtag props or flops. Do not forget to tag Comic Book Canon and Journos on that post. Tell us why this book interests you. Tell us what you paid for it. And Chris will break it down live on the show.